It gives us the flexibility and the ability to schedule content for every single day. What up, movers and groovers? You're watching Emeroy TV, the place to move, groove, and grow. And today is Biz Tuesday. If it's your first time hopping on my channel on a Tuesday, every Tuesday I share with you guys social media marketing strategies that my company Vision Paradox implements with our clients. Then we share with you guys so you guys can build your personal brand, your coffee mug company, your protein supplement, whatever it is you're trying to sell online. And today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at how my company Vision Paradox creates content for our clients. One of the common things our clients, or the people we talk to in general, one of the common challenges they face is not having enough content, or not having any ideas to come up with content, or they just don't know where to start. And in the world of social media, content is king. And not only that, you've also got to be consistent with whatever social platforms you decide to be on. So the question is, do you have a content strategy that you're implementing, or you just kind of like, feast and famine? You do a photo shoot or whatever it is, and then you use it all up on social, and then you're, scrambling for more content there. If you find yourself similar to what our clients go through, you're losing the attention of your potential customers, and even losing followers because of your lack of consistency. So today we're going to be talking about Vision Paradox's content strategy. So by the end of this video, by the end of today, you'll have an in-depth understanding of our content creation strategy, so you have an infinite amount of content to work with on whatever platform you're on. Alright, so before we get right into it, make sure you hit like and subscribe and share this with friends who you think might benefit from it. Alright, so one of the reasons we did this, the thing that sucks with social media is that when you post something, you get that attention for a little bit, but then with the next 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, it's like lost in history. Going off on a tangent real quick, it makes sense why Instagram and Facebook have their algorithm to showcase some of your friends' content to really maximize, the exposure of that content. Because if everything was chronological and you're like following, 500 friends and everything's just coming at you like a straight timeline, you're never going to see that update your friend posted from last Saturday about their trip in in the Philippines. So that's why I kind of like Instagram and Facebook's algorithm. It gets a chance to get love from everyone who hasn't seen it yet. So I digress. Anyways, rolling back to sharing a piece of content and then getting lost into ancient history in social media within the next 30 to 48 hours, 30 minutes to 48 hours, excuse me. It came back to like me wanting to share a piece of content more than once. Like, why not? Like, if I saw a piece of content perform really well one time, why not share it again 6 months later? And just something I do every single year. Like this one piece of content that I have, which is of me dancing at a street show, it got love last year, and then I shared it again this year, and people loved it even more. It just grew in popularity because now I have more followers. I have friends who didn't get a chance to see it. I have followers who didn't get a chance to see it. This content strategy gives us an opportunity to create a library of content you can work with, repurpose, and just keep sharing. All right, so the second reason we like doing this is because it gives us the flexibility and the ability to schedule content for every single day. Sometimes there are going to be drought months where clients don't have anything new, and sometimes there's going to be new stuff where we can shift everything that's scheduled a week later or a month later and have that be the priority, or we can have that be layered on top and make that the priority on top of what's already there. It really gives us a nice buffer and a nice foundation to make sure that all the social media platforms have content going out every single day. So there are two ways to create content: create and document. Let's talk about creating first. Music videos are creating content. Creating content is essentially what I'm doing right now. I planned it out, I outlined it or scripted it, depending on how you roll, or your storyboard, depending on it. Anything that's planned, scripted, that takes time out of your day to plan out a shoot day, that is creating content. It kind of creates a disturbance in a sense from your regular workday, which is one of the reasons why certain clients of ours lack content, is because they don't have the time to sit down and create content unless they have a team with themselves. The pros about this is that the content can be a little bit higher quality, especially if you guys have to book a studio. The content can be more succinct, can be more concise. The messaging is more on point instead of someone who's trying to, try to riff and go off the cuff like me right now. The cons is that it can be time consuming. You have to take the time out of your day to plan out your ideas, to write it out, to book the studio, to get the right people to film for you to film it in general. And after filming, the content can potentially become redundant because it's the same message, it's the same location. There's no real variety, which makes this part a little bit hard to work with when it comes to executing our content strategy, but if you're creative, you can make it work. And then not only that, you also have to do it again. The next way you can create content is documenting instead of creating. Gary Vee really made this super popular in documenting instead of creating. I've honestly been doing it since 2003 when I got my first handheld camera, just filming everything, documenting everything I possibly can. And I used to edit on VHS tapes prior to Premiere, but anyways, I digress. So the beauty of documenting is that you don't need to plan. It's very raw. It's almost like creating a reality TV show at your call. Very similar to Snapchat. Snapchat, it's like 10 times more raw because, you're filming it at that moment. With documenting, it's raw in that sense, but you have the flexibility to do post-production, add some lower thirds, add some animations, you can add some music if you wanted. And you don't exactly have to plan out a shoot day because every day is a shoot day if you want it to be. Documenting doesn't necessarily mean you have to start vlogging. You don't have to necessarily go to the extent of a Peter McKinnon or Casey Neistat or even a Gary Vaynerchuk. You don't have to document every single second of your day. So document the parts that are important and the parts that you think aren't that important, and I'll explain. Document the parts that are important, meaning say you're in a meeting and you might share some business advice that might be directed at that person, but that advice itself can be helpful for someone else. And then all you'd have to do is just cut it up real nice, make sure there's no private information that gets out. And when I talk about the things that aren't important, the day-to-day stuff, that can be things like, for me, when I'm doing dance, I think rehearsals can be boring as hell because there's a lot of standing, waiting, and just practicing the dance moves over and over. But the people who've never been in that realm, who've never stepped foot inside a rehearsal, that can be interesting to them. That can be interesting content for you to share. And if you can wrap it up in some sort of message, that can be a pretty powerful piece of content. So when it comes to that, like in terms of documenting the important and non-important things, what are things that you think are boring, like how you like a customer service call. Some people might think that's boring, but if you happen to have, a conversation with a really difficult customer and you handle it like a pro, that would be pretty interesting to watch, because people who are trying to improve their customer service skills, that might be something super helpful, because then they see you, and we learn by example. Monkey see, monkey do, in a sense. Pros of this is there's no scripting. You don't necessarily have to outline anything. You can, if you want to, kind of like outline, like if you know your day, you think about the certain things you want to film and what you don't want to film. The last thing you want to do is just film nothing. If you know what your day is going to entail, it helps to kind of have an idea and just be flexible, because when you start documenting, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of unknown variables that you're going to run into. So be really, really flexible with that. Again, pros, no scripting, and because there's no scripting, it can capture very real moments. And sometimes, if you've ever had those moments where you share some piece of advice that really was profound, and if you've ever thought, like, damn, like that was some deep shit, like I should have filmed that, because you're documenting, you'll then be able to share that profound moment with everyone else on social. So along with that, you don't necessarily have to chunk in this time in the middle of your day. You're just going throughout your day and just happen to be filming it. Whereas if you're creating, you would have to stop everything you're doing, make time to film, just like what I'm doing right now, and then go back to the rest of your day. With documenting, you just so happen to be going around your day and a camera happens to be there. And another pro is that it gives you a whole lot of content to work with. If you're going from one place to another, that's like multiple video shoots and photo shoots. For me, if I had a really busy day, it would be going to a rehearsal, a meeting, hanging out with my son, phone meeting, and then another meeting. So then that's several different locations. And if I'm mindful enough to be able to set my camera at the right place, I can get a good vlog. I can get some good audio content, potentially use it for a podcast. I can use it, get really nice clean images. And that's for each potential location I just mentioned. Rehearsal space looks different from the first meeting, looks different from me hanging out with my son, looks different from the second meeting I go to. So that just by filming your regular day, you create a lot of content. So the cons of this is that it can be pretty time consuming because there's so much content to sift through, and unless you have an editor who can do all that work for you to look for the best moments to create all these pieces of content, you've got to chunk some time into the editing process. Either way, if you're a solopreneur and doing all your own editing, you're gonna have to edit all this content on your own unless you have your own small team, which is essentially what I did at first. I'm creating a lot of content, creating a lot of micro pieces of content, and then just dispersing it through all different social channels. So if I had to choose between creating and documenting, I wouldn't, because I like both. There comes a time to create and there comes a time to document. There have been many times in the middle of me vlogging and documenting where I have a 20 to 30 minute window, or even a little longer, where I can actually fit in a Q&A episode, which is essentially what a lot of my Q&A episodes are. I have some downtime. I don't have a whole lot to do, like a tutorial or anything that's in depth, so I do a Q&A episode, and each that becomes one piece of content, and then like each Q&A episode becomes a separate episode in itself, because that obviously leverages SEO, but some people just aren't going to watch that entire episode and they just want to see that question answered right off the bat. Getting a little bit ahead of myself in terms of, creating micro content. I just love creating content that helps people, and it kind of gives me a little shot of adrenaline and excitement whenever I see people enjoying the content. And the feedback is that I get from you guys, or from the people that I work with, is what excites me. Now on to the content strategy. Say you have like 3 hours of content. It doesn't matter how you filmed it, either vlogging or photo shoot, or you who are actually creating it like this. That one piece of content can easily become one vlog video or a tutorial video. Most people would stop there. They would just get the one piece of content, distribute it, and then they're done. So this is where it can get interesting in repurposing and remixing your content. It's not just, one use. It's used forever. Two ways you can go about it. So the one long tutorial video, vlog video, is one piece of macro content already. And macro content becomes 1 minute plus. Okay, and this is where you can create that one mega piece of content you just created and create another piece of content based out of it. Say you did something like what I just explained, which is doing a Q&A episode. Okay, the one main pillar piece of content would be the entire Q&A episode, and I generally do 6 questions. 6 questions plus that one video, that makes 7 videos. So from that one video, I can divide it into 6 pieces of content, and I would be able to distribute that on anything that allows me to share over a minute. So that would be YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So from there, if your audio quality is great, you can get the audio from that piece of content, whether it's the macro versions of the pillar content, whatever it is you want to go with, you can share it through Anchor, and through Anchor it can distribute it to multiple podcast sources: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever else that they distribute podcasts. That's one way to distribute just the audio form from that one place. And the next way of creating macro content is a blog post, and I think there's 2 methods that you can go about this. Is the first one, you can transcribe the audio and make it into a post, or the second method is you write a post leading up to the content and make it available, the actual content available as audio or video. And the people who I think do this really well is Marie Forleo from Marie TV, Lewis Howes from School of Greatness, Tim Ferriss from The Tim Ferriss Show. And you can share this content either on your own personal blog, or on LinkedIn, or on Medium. Okay, and you can leverage your keywords once you're done transcribing the audio. You can then start inserting the keywords that you have researched. And the next thing you can do is remix it up. So say the piece of audio is really good and parts of the video are good. Remix it up by adding some B-roll from other stock footage or other videos that you filmed before. It can still be the same message, same audio, but the minute you start adding some B-roll into it, it just adds another flavor to it. And even more so when you start adding background music to it. Family is everything. It doesn't necessarily have to be blood. It's the people who love you and care for you no matter what. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you've made, what type of mistakes. Family is everything. It doesn't necessarily have to be blood. It's the people who love you and care for you no matter what. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you've made. What family is everything. It doesn't necessarily have to be blood. It's the people who love you and care for you no matter what. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you made, what type. So you're starting to see that there's a lot of approaches not just to create your content, but also to maximize it. All right, so the next thing you can do is create micro content. That's anything, we define that as any piece of content that's under a minute. So you can do a 30-second, 45-second snippet of your pillar content. You can do a 35, 45-second, or 60-second version of remix or a highlight video, like I just mentioned. Add some music, add some B-roll, edit it and make it look epic as F. You can do memes, you can do GIFs, you can do images, you can do inspirational quotes. That's the type of micro content that you can use. All right, so whether it's macro or micro content, you can definitely see how you can use the strategy to distribute to all platforms, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Anchor, iTunes, Vero, whatever it is. You can use this strategy to have such an insane amount of content. There's no reason for you to not be everywhere, because it creates a library of content in just one session. One of our clients that we worked with, we filmed him for a night, and it was a album release party, and from that film session alone we were able to create, I think, 800 to 1,000 pieces of content. Was it redundant? Was it a lot? Probably, but do we have a buffer? Do we have a million ways to be able to distribute that content if we want to schedule it for the next 2 years? Hell yeah, we can. We have so many different versions, it's ridiculous. We can schedule any of that content every 3 months if we wanted to. So if you want to avoid being redundant and seeming like you've only been filming and doing photo shoots in the same place with the same photographer, do this for 5, 10, 20 sessions, film for 2-3 hours, okay? And you do this once a quarter, and then run it through this process. You'll have an insane amount of content, an unlimited amount of content forever. Yeah, one of our clients, Antics, has the biggest content library because they've been with us forever, and because of that, it allows us to reapproach certain pieces of content. It allows, especially since social media managers have changed throughout the years, and different social media managers have different approaches and different strategies, and because there's already a content library and it's aligned with whatever they're sharing, content that we repurpose seems fresh to the end user, because no one has ever told us, we've seen this before, no one has ever said do something else. I think people overthink it when it comes to sharing their content, because we ourselves know we've shared it before. It's like, oh, I can't share this again, I just shared it 3 months ago. You're like, who cares? Once you get to that point of you don't care what other people think, but this image that you shared 3 months ago resonates with you today, why not share it and share your truth and share your message? What holds people back is being overly concerned about the opinions of others. If your message is still coming from the soul, coming from your truth, and hitting and resonating with the people you're sharing it with, which most of the time it will, then I don't see why you shouldn't share a piece of content again. I mean, people came up with Throwback Thursday, Way Back Wednesday, Flashback Friday for a reason. I mean, you can literally schedule 1 to 2 pieces of content every single day and then add your new stuff on top of what's already scheduled. I mean, some people might not want to do this because they want to be intentional with their aesthetic or intentional with what they're sharing. Cool. If you want to maximize your time and still be intentional with the content you produce, work with another videographer or photographer for an additional 2 or 3 hours. Bring different outfits. Pay a little bit more so you can have a longer session and to be able to produce the content that you want. Hope you guys enjoyed this nice little 10,000 foot view of how we at Vision Paradox create content for our clients, for ourselves, so that way you guys can do the same. These next few videos, we're going to be going in depth further into these processes and how our graphic designers create this content, how our video editors create this content, and how you guys can do it at home, because we use Photoshop and we use Premiere, but we also are aware that everyone is experienced in those, so we're also giving you guys alternatives so you guys can still execute this process. So that's it. If you guys like this video, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and share this with friends who you think might benefit from it, and make sure you hit the bell button so you guys are getting notifications of when new content is coming out. Thanks for watching Emeroy TV, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.